5 scores! Rick Vaughn.
We've decided to get ourselves back in the game again with our podcast.
Rick Vaughn, Gary Madden.
Probably the craziest story that you're ever going to hear about hockey.
We're going to be coming back to you on a regular basis.
You are listening to Squid and the Ultimate Leafs Fan.
Hello, Canada and hockey fans of the United States and Newfoundland, and an extra big hello to Canadian servicemen overseas.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 104 of the Squid and Ultimate Leafs Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs Fan. Joining me, as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, how we keeping?
All good, Michael. Got another busy week of hockey coming up this weekend, and I'm happy about it, so ready to go.
Life is good when you're working.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Squid, this week we feature part 2 of our compelling conversation with Brantt Myhres. Brantt's story is one, in my opinion, every young player, or any young person for that matter, should read to understand how easy you can fall in the lure of addiction.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't even know if it took me 2 or 3 days to read it. It wasn't very long. I mean, just the stuff that he went through as a young kid to start, and then, later on, the drugs, became prevalent, and the alcohol and everything else. But yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of people could learn a lot from reading that book, and then watching him now and how great he looks and everything, and how great he's doing. It just shows you that, if you do get into something like that, you can make it out on the other side.
Yeah, no question. I mean, his upbringing was obviously very, very sad and just awful that he had to endure that. But the fact that he pulled himself out of the book, by the way, folks, is called Painkiller by Brantt Myhres. Here's a guy, I mean, he didn't even start drinking till his late teens. He avoided alcohol, and it shows you just how it can just capture you and just bring you down that dark hole. And it's just awful. But the good part about the story is how he's recovered. And look, I guess what we have to understand is addiction is everywhere. The world I was involved in for 40 years on Bay Street, drugs and alcohol abuse were rampant. I mean, why should a professional athlete be any different? And as a matter of fact, with temptations at their fingertips every day of their careers, easier almost to fall than anywhere else. And the sad reality is when they suddenly become irrelevant, all those friends are nowhere to be found.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, it's a very, very good lesson. I mean, not just for athletes, but for anybody in any kind of business whatsoever, because it kind of teaches you what is lurking around the corner, so to speak, ready to pounce on you. And if you have that gene of addiction in you, and you get into that, then you're likely going to be into it for the long haul, and you're going to have to go to rehab and get yourself straightened out. Maybe not once, maybe twice, or like him, I think, 4 times, 5 times.
Yeah,
I mean,
4.
But that's perseverance on his part to go through that. And the last time I think he said was 8 months, I believe. And boy, that's a long time to be in rehab.
It sure is. And I mean, anyway, it's an episode we don't think you should miss. And in the book, as I said, it is, I think, a must read for anybody. And, you will be thoroughly not only entertained, but you'll certainly feel for this poor young guy and be almost elated from the way he's turned his life around and where he is today, which is a remarkable story. Now, in your day, Squid, how serious was the issue? I mean, the NHL kept the drug abuse pretty quiet until Sports Illustrated exposed them in a damning article. And before that, Don Murdoch was sort of the first real high-profile case that came out in the late 70s or the 70s and early 80s. I mean, cocaine, remember, was famous becoming the drug for celebrities. And Robin Williams once said, cocaine is God's way of telling you you're making too much money.
Well, I guess that's a pretty funny, good way to put it. But, I think it was available. There's no question. I mean, I heard a lot of things. I never, ever saw anybody doing it, to be quite honest with you. But I did know that it was readily available if you had the money, which playing in the National League, even back in the 80s, if you wanted to do it, you had the money. And so it was there. It was just a matter of whether or not you were willing to go there.
One of the things that we touch on with Brantt in the second half and the second part that you're going to hear today is the job he created himself post the addiction and when he was sober. Although every day you still are just one sort of sip or temptation away from falling back into the hole again. With the LA Kings, as a confidant almost to the players to discuss anything troubling them. Yes, the league has professionals, doctors, all these sports medicine guys around them. But come on, Squid, who are you going to trust? A doctor
But
who
they
works
didn't
for the
play.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who are you going to trust? A doctor who works for the club and the fear he may pass along your problem to a coach if things aren't going well, or a former player who lived a nightmare and dealt with similar demons?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, Mike, and I know that I think every professional team in all the top leagues should have someone that played for that organization that went through something like that, and went through playing in that organization. Be it especially like a place like Toronto, Montreal, where the expectations are so high, and I think a person like that could be very, very valuable to these young players today, who don't necessarily want to have meetings with the coaches all the time and that sort of thing. It's another ear that they can kind of sound to and maybe get some different ways of dealing with what they're dealing with.
Well, I mean, not giving away too much of the story, Milan Lucic, now everything was confidential. Now, Milan Lucic went public with it when he went to LA. He was struggling mentally with the adjustment to move to a new city, a new team, the pressures. And he immediately reached out to Brantt, and Brantt worked with him. And Lucic gave him all kinds of credit for helping him settle himself down and fit in. And the guy's still playing, by the way.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's critical. Especially, like I said, you get into some places like Toronto, Montreal, anywhere in Canada for that matter.
Yeah.
But especially those centers, and you're coming from a place where maybe hockey wasn't that big and you weren't noticed all the time when you were outside the arena and that sort of thing. That could be a big bit of anxiety for a player. So getting to sit down with someone who's been through that and helping them like he helped Lucic, I think it's immensely great for the players to have that outlet.
I couldn't agree more, and I just don't understand how these teams, by hiring a former player, you're dealing with a multi-billion-dollar business. So now, why not spend a nominal amount of money to protect all bases and to cover your assets? And it's nothing more than just another ear for a player to reach out and speak to, and it may be really nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of little things too. Like, it may not be drugs, it may not be alcohol, it could be just any little thing. And a player that played in that market and went through similar things that this player is anxious about can always help them. Because they've been through that, they know what it's like, and they can sit down with them and have a good conversation and probably help him get over that anxiety of being in that bubble or whatever you want to call it when you go outside the rink.
Well, think about this. Let's spitball on this. A few years ago, when Austin Matthews had that minor issue in the offseason back home in Arizona, imagine if he'd had a player such as you who went through it all yourself, lived here, you're a captain, he dealt with players. He had you to reach out to and say, hey, Rick, what should I do here? Is this press going to crucify me? What are the fans going to do? What's management going to do? Like, you lived it. Like, help me here a little bit if you can.
Well, I mean, my experiences, I would have said the first thing you should do is get a hold of Kyle and let him know and have him pass it on to Brendan, because they're both going to hear it. Sooner or later, it's going to come out. Everything comes out these days, and they're going to find out. And the last thing they want is a surprise 4 or 5 months down the road. So if you come out and tell them yourself, then I think everything is going to go a whole lot smoother.
Yeah. And that's just sound advice. I mean, it sounds very common sense like, but when you're in that situation and you're dealing with the future in front of you, it can be pretty tough to get your head on straight and think that way.
Yeah, well, and I mean, if I was 23 or whatever it was his age when he did that, would I have thought that? Probably not.
Not a chance.
And I would have liked to have had someone that I could call and say, what do you think I should do?
Exactly.
But I didn't really have anybody that I could call and say, so again, if I was in that situation at his age, I wouldn't have known what to do. But with the help of a former player who played in that market and went through problems of his own, that would be sound advice.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, Squid, I think people are tired of listening to us and hearing our opinions. Let's hear from the man himself. And let's turn it over to Brantt Myhres, and hope you enjoy this. No, people don't understand that. And I don't, certainly. But, we can certainly have empathy for you. And speaking of which, I think let's talk about some of the people that were influential in your life, Myhres. Guys like Eric, you were surrounded by a plethora of stars at times. Eric Lindros and Paul Coffey, to name a few. You became close with those guys. Now, let me say this. I mean, it really isn't a coincidence that the Stars, or maybe I'll ask you both this question. It really isn't a coincidence that the Stars hang and spend time with enforcers. One, because they get protection. But I think it's more importantly, it's a level of respect knowing that they are Stars, but without your contribution and sacrifice, and let's make no bones about it, it's a sacrifice to play the way you did and to play the role you did. It gives everyone all more concern, more room in the ice. And you were once a star in your own right.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure, Rick, you can attest to this, that the majority feel that like the heavyweights or the tough guys were some of the most liked guys in the room. Mm-hmm. And I think whether you were looked at as a protector or not off the ice, maybe, but also I think just a fun, loving, friendly guy that like wants to have fun. And Eric was only 25 years old at that time, and I was 24, and I think Koff was like 37, I think. And and Paul Coffey was a guy that I looked up to as much as I looked up to Wayne Gretzky. So when I got traded to Philly, and he was the first guy to walk up to me and say, "Hey, I heard you're from Edmonton." And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I love playing there." And he said, "Welcome to the team." And so Koff was amazing with the young guys, not just me, just all the rookies or younger guys. And then Big E was just Big E. He was a very private guy. I could see why, and I respected that. We hit it off.
Yeah, actually, now that I look back on it, for I think a year and a half, I think we had Jeff Brubaker on our team.
You did.
And I know Jeff was one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. And you probably wouldn't want to meet him on the ice if you were me anyway, if you were playing against him. But you'd love to have him on your team. And, I got along with Brew extremely well. I wouldn't say we were best friends, but, we had a mutual admiration for what each of us did as a player, I guess.
He coached me, Ricky. And
oh, did he?
Yeah, I got sent down in Tampa for what was it, 3 weeks, and I went to San Antonio. They were called the Dragons, and it was in the International Hockey League. And Jeff Brubaker was the head coach. And
oh boy,
I think I had 98 minutes and penalties in 10 games.
Holy God.
He was very like, this is what your role is. This is what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Brew is, I love Brew. He was awesome.
Yeah. Great guy.
Now, Brantt, talk about the influence of Darryl Sutter in your life.
I think that started when I was just got to San Jose, and I was I was sitting by myself in the stands, and there was nobody really there, but training camp was going on, and he just came up to me and said, "Hey, can I sit with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And he just started talking to me about one of his family members had a problem with alcohol, and he didn't feel like a coach to me at that point as we were talking. It was weird. It was almost like, this has nothing to do with hockey right now, Brantt. Like, this is, and I think from that point on, I just had this thing that I didn't want to let him down, and throughout all my relapses that I had and rehabs, I think of Darryl whenever I got suspended and he put his neck out on the line for me. And that really bothered me. And because I really would go through the wall for him. And, we still chat once in a while to this day. And he's just a really, really good man, really good man.
Yeah, he was an assistant when I was in Chicago, and I really enjoyed him, and that whole family actually. I mean, they were all good people. Brian, I played against him, and he was in St. Louis. We played, God, I don't know how many games against him over the years, and everybody always says, "Who was the toughest guy you ever played against?" I said, "Brian Sutter." I said, "We never had a fight, but every night was a battle. It was like hack and whack and hook and, do whatever the hell you needed to do to win, But they're a great family, and Darryl especially was good with me as well in Chicago, and I had my issues in Chicago, but he was always there to talk to me, and I always appreciated that.
Yeah. I got to see a different side of Darryl too when I was in LA, when I worked for the Kings, and I quite honestly, it was relieving for me not to be so tense around him all the time, like I was with when I played. He had a way, like, I don't know, he used to punch me in the side of the stomach if I had a good shift. He wouldn't say anything. He'd just walk by and give me a punch. And if you had a couple little bruises at the end of the game, you were doing good.
You had a good game.
But he was great to play for. And then when I worked there in LA, he was even better. He was really good. He knew how nervous I was in that role, and he tried to really calm me down.
I do want to get into that eventually, but a couple of the other guys that seem to surround you, you must reflect back and think, some, like, we'll start with one, Joe Murphy. Now, we know what a tragic story that has become. And Rick was just talking about him, some of the guys up north a week ago. But talk about him, playing with him. And did you guys ever get out and get after it?
Oh, yeah. Murph was, I was at San Jose, I would have been 25, and Murph would have been maybe early 30s, something like that. But he was single. I was single. So, we'd go out quite a bit and hang out, and I loved Murph. Like, I was devastated when I saw that thing pop up on TSN. My heart broke for him because all I remember is the fun-loving, funny, nice Joe, and driving a brand new BMW and living in this beautiful home, and his body was his temple, and then I see him. You guys saw how he was, and it just
pretty sad.
It was really sad to see that, and another guy that I knew that I was friend was Matt Johnson, and to see Matty struggle like that, and so I don't even know where Murph is today. I don't know how he's doing.
Well, I had a good conversation with Trevor Kidd on this last trip we were on, and he was one of the guys with Glenn Healy that went and found him in Kenora.
Yeah.
And they got him into the hospital. But again, they had no control over keeping him there. So he left. I think Trevor said he's in Saskatchewan now somewhere. He didn't know where. But
oh, really?
Murph didn't want any help. And he said Trevor was good. He said, he was talking to me. He said, you know, Rick, he said it was one of the saddest things I've ever done. He said, I'd be standing there talking to Murph, and then all of a sudden he'd be having a good conversation, and then he would say, wait a minute, there's demons out here. They're coming after me and everything. And he said, I didn't know what was going on. He said it was one of the saddest things I've ever had to do. And I can only imagine, like, I can't imagine what he's going through.
Yeah, it's obviously he needs to be, you know, psychologically evaluated and then medicated. You know, he's dealing with some issues that are far beyond going to an AA meeting.
Yeah,
and Kevin Stevens was another one.
Pardon me?
Kevin Stevens is another one.
Yeah.
Oh, Artie. Oh, yeah. Actually, I got to know Artie really well when he went into his first treatment center in Los Angeles. I was in my second one, and really like Artie. Again, just one of those guys that you never want to give up on, you know, as Mario attests to in Pittsburgh. So it's great to see that he's working as a scout. That's amazing. And I chatted with him maybe about a year ago. He said he's doing great. So it's awesome.
Well, it's really funny because Brantt told me when he got traded to Pittsburgh, he made a joke because we had all the boys back home who were the beer drinkers and everybody could do this. And he said, nah, you guys, a couple of our pros, not me, a couple of the pros said they're lightweights. The best beer drinker I've ever seen in my life to this day, and they wouldn't even hold a candle to, is Kevin Stevens.
Oh, no.
And of course, we laughed at the time about it all. Yeah. And of course, the end result, look what happens.
Yeah.
You know? So it's only funny for so far.
Yes.
And the other guy I'd like you to touch on, and then this is somebody you were spending a lot of time at the DM, was Bob Probert, and talk about how that all unfolded.
So I was working out at Gold's Gym with the trainer, and there was quite a few guys there. Actually, there was Chris Chelios, Chris Nyland was there, and Chris Simon, Rob Blake, Jeremy Roenick. We had a Matthew Schneider. We had quite a crew there, and I was tying up my shoes, and my trainer goes, hey, there's a guy on the bicycle up there who's riding it, and he's warming up. He goes, he's gonna be your partner this summer. And I said, oh yeah. I said, who's that? And he goes, you'll meet him soon enough. Just get up there and get your shoes on. So I tie my shoes and I start walking up the stairs, and I look, and there's Proby riding a bike. And again, like Bob Probert to me was, you know, not as big as Gretsch, but right below Wayne. And I'm riding the bike, and there's Big Bob. You know, we're chatting, and the next thing, hey, you want to come over to the house and hang out with Danny and have dinner and the kids? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. And then obviously the whole, you know, the stories I talk about there are the stories, but you know, one thing that when I watched the documentary on Bob, it was called Tough Guy.
Yep.
I really wish that they would have showed a little bit of a brighter side of Proby in that documentary, because of the way that he was loved by his teammates and what a great guy he was, and not to focus on such the darkness that was sometimes going on around him, but also to shed some light on what a great human being Bob was, you know, because that's all that I knew. Yeah, he was dealing with what I was dealing with, but at the same time, you know, everybody loved Big Bob, and he was just a great human being, and I had nothing but great things to say about him.
Yeah, he was. And I remember Dave Hutchison, who was very close to Bob, and playing NHL alumni games with Bob, going all over Ontario, playing all these games. And like, he was just like a big teddy bear. Like, he just, you know, I thought when I watched that documentary, I kind of thought the same thing. I thought,
Yeah.
you know what? I know the guy. I said he's much different than that. He's a very good person, but they're not showing that. You know.
No,
I think you're right. I agree with you.
Now the other guy. Let's get to him. The guy who was at the top, Gretz.
Yeah.
Now, the first time you met him, and talk about that whole situation.
Oh my gosh. So, and listen, I like me and Brantt, we got sent down to Atlanta, Georgia, which was the IHL back then. And again, we just, I think Brantt liked hanging out with the tough guys too. And so me and Brantt became really close that year in Atlanta with his wife Nikki, and we had a really good time. And that summer I was at home, and he just phoned me and said, "Hey, Myhres," he said, "I'm getting married. Do you want to come to the wedding?" And I said, "Yeah." I go, "That'd be awesome." I go, "Who's going to be there?" He's like, family. I'm like, "Oh yeah." I said, "Okay." I said, "Yeah." I mean, I would have went if it was just Brantt and Nikki, though. Like, I love those two people. They're awesome. But anyways, we show up in Toronto, or I did, and when we drove to Brantford, and here we are pulling up to this house that I dreamt about skating in. And I knock on the door, and Brantt goes, "You don't need to knock." And then Wayne opens the door up, and he said, "Hey, Wayne." And I just said, hey, Brantt, and he goes, what are you drinking tonight? And I said, "Anything that you are." And and we sat together with his mother, and we just had a few drinks throughout the night, and we talked about hockey, and talked about just life, and it was, and then here's the one thing I remember about Wayne that separated him. So the next day was the wedding, and everybody was in a hall, and they were all dancing and stuff, and I was by myself. I didn't really know anybody other than Brent and Nikki, really, and I was just standing by myself in the corner, and Wayne was sitting on a chair like mine. And he saw me by myself, and he looked at me, and he waved me over, and he said, come here. And then he moved over on this little skinny chair, and he said, "Grab a seat." And that was just the type of guy that he was. Like, he saw me all alone, and he invited me over, and I sat there. And so he was bigger than life with all those posters on my room. Then I got to meet him, and he was even bigger than that. And I think that's a message for anybody that's in the public eye, and that is where you have so many young kids that look up to you, is to never try and not disappoint them, because you only get one chance sometimes to meet your idol.
Did you talk about the roll of tape?
Oh no,
it's kind
no!
Of funny.
No.
Oh, you didn't?
I never brought up the
You
tape.
didn't tell him?
I was too embarrassed. I was too embarrassed to bring up the tape. But I did go downstairs, and Walter took me down, and he said, because I was by myself, and I was looking at all these trophies and jerseys and all this, and he goes, "Come here, I'll show you something." And he opened up a padlock to this door, and he opens the door up, and there was, I think there was about 50 of Wayne's sticks, all taped up, and they were all record breakers, and they were getting ready to go out to the Hall of Fame. And it was an incredible moment for me.
Squid, you met him as a 16-year-old.
The World Juniors. Yeah. I think he was 16. I was 17 or 8. No, I was 18. So Bill Derlego hurt his knee right before the World Juniors. So they needed a centerman. Well, here's this skinny little kid from Brantford that's leading the OHL in scoring. And I don't think anybody thought when he came to Montreal that he was going to do what he did, but he led the tournament in scoring and was one of the nicest guys I think I've ever met. And of course, Walter. I know Walter very, very well. He was always with us in the NHL alumni games all over Ontario. He would come, and what a wonderful person. You'd see him. I remember going to a rink. We went to a rink in Brantford, and I remember Brantt plays in a lot of those games with me now, and he would always say that his dad would just go to the rink to watch the kids play. Like, not his kids, just watch kids play and talk to people and everything. And I always thought, that's pretty cool that he does that. And it was one of those things that I thought was pretty cool for a guy like Wayne Gretzky's father to do. And, it was just, to me, it was like wonderful. I thought it was great, and of course, Brantt still plays with us all the time. I'll say hello to him. I'm going to see him next week in Belleville.
Yeah, tell him
I will definitely say hello to him.
Yeah. Well, and that's why too, Mike, it really bothered me when I didn't have to, but when I sold Gretzky's stick that Kevin Stevens got me after we played the Rangers that night. And, I swore I'd never get rid of that thing, and I was really down and out. And I just remember saying to the guy who I sold it to, I think I only sold it for it was cheap, like $1,000 or something. And I just said, hey, if I ever turn my life around, make sure you sell me that stick back. And he said, yeah. He said, I'll keep it for you. And then I came knocking about 3 or 4 years later, and I said, I'm back. I said, can I get the stick? He says, yeah. He says, I really don't want to give it back to you. He says, but you know what? Yeah, I said I would, and I will. And yeah, I got the stick right next to my bed, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a favorite story for sure.
Yeah.
I was going to get you to bring that one up.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my estimate, there's a couple of good, we want to get to some of the good part. And there is a really good, we're going to get to the good stuff. Before that, I just want to lead this in with this. In my estimation, as little as it may mean to anybody, this passage from the book is sort of sums it up. And I'm going to quote you again in this one. Hangovers are a gift. Those agonizing hours when you see yourself through the haze of physical pain and the ache of mortification may be the only honest moment in a drunk's life. Honest in the sense that for a few hours, that booze will only make things worse. That's whatever you were feeling. Whatever you were feeling the night before wasn't really happiness. For a short time, you can see the laughter and hilarity as nothing more than a fraud. I think that's a really powerful statement.
Yeah, the word fraud is really struck home with me. And the word fraud, and then a mirror. The mirrors in your house, they never lie. And when you can't look at yourself in the mirror for a period of time, that something's wrong, and you're usually a fraud to yourself. And that was, a pretty powerful statement.
Squid?
And so true. So true. It's you get to a point where, like you said, you can't look at yourself in the mirror because you're doing something that is wrong, but you can't help it. And other than, I remember the night I just broke down. I said to my wife, I gotta go somewhere and get some help. And I was gone 3 days later. And it was the best decision I think I ever made in my life, because at that point I had 2 boys. And I said to myself, if I don't get help, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose my family, and I'm going to lose everything that means anything to me. And I didn't want that to happen. And
on Brantt's
so I
case,
got to the point where I said I needed to get some help.
Well, in Brantt's case, the road to recovery started with the coming of age, or sort of this little person entering your life when you get that phone call one day? Maybe you want to address that.
Yeah. Oh, Peanut.
His daughter.
Yeah, Chloe. Yeah. You know, God's been dangling little, little carrots in front of me from time to time, or little gifts that he would throw down, whether it was the NHL reaching out again for the fifth time. And then obviously my daughter was being born. She was born, I believe it was about 10 days after I got into treatment. So didn't see her for a while, for maybe 8 months. And then I got to meet her. And once you hold your child, it's as you guys know, it's pretty hard to turn it back, So yeah, she was a real pivotal part of me getting sober.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, like I said, I had 2 boys at the time, and I thought, if I don't do something,
you're going to be gone.
I'm going to lose these guys.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I was ready to do. I didn't want to lose my boys and my wife and my house and everything. And, I made a conscious decision to go and get help.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing that I did pretty well, obviously, was that my daughter's never seen me loaded. And coming from an abusive alcoholic stepfather, it was pretty important to me to hold true to that, to her. So I'm proud of that.
Well, also you should be proud of, let's talk about the program you ran for Indigenous kids. Started some of your hockey schools.
Yeah, that was called the Greater Strides Hockey Academy, and it was in Calgary. And my uncle Charlie, who was the Grand Chief back then, I had a proposal that I built up for the reserves, and I noticed that there wasn't any hockey academies on the reserves. None of it. It was all within the city, and so I got a couple big sponsors on board, and I would run these camps. It was a free camp for 100 kids between the age of 5 and 17. And they'd come for 3 days, and we brought in good food, and we brought in an elder, and we brought in some physical training for them every day, or dry land training. And yeah, it was great. I did that for, I think 4 or 5 years. Until a different phone call came.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second too. But Squid, you've got some experience in that too, just from last weekend.
Yeah, it was. You know what? I love going up to those territories, and well, actually, it's funny. We're coming off the ice, and the Grand Chief for all of Canada, a lady, and she's given out. I'm not sure exactly what they were, but anyway, I won't get into that part. But I walk up to her, and she looks and she goes, "Oh my God, it's Rick Vive. Rick, you were my favorite player." And I'm like,
"Oh, that's great."
But you know what? It was, these people are so wonderful up there at Cochrane and
yeah,
places I talked about before, and Manitoulin Island, and I love going to these places because they're such wonderful people, and they treat you very, very well.
Yeah,
and, it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, one of the other things you accomplished in your life, and this is something that Squid and I have had chats about, and this is something I just can't believe the NHL's in more behind, is you took some courses. You obviously were right on the ground floor, living it yourself, so you know totally the experience, and there's other players that are in the same boat. You got an unexpected call from a GM out of LA, and maybe walk us through the program that you set up.
Yeah, so that would have been the summer of 2015, I think, and Dean Lombardi reached out to me because there was some things going on with some players that summer, or that year, I guess. And, he just said, "Can you fly to LA?" And that moment in my life, I think because it was so hard to get that phone call, like that was literally 7 years in the making of never giving up and wanting to stick with something and believe in it. And even when things weren't working out really with a job in the national, to help the players out, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, what's the downside here? Like, to having somebody in a supportive role, I don't understand what's. It's not money. Like, what is it? And so after 7 years, I got the call, and I think that for myself personally, that as I was sitting on the plane with the Kings, getting ready to fly off, it was just one of those surreal moments. I was looking outside the window, and I said, I can't believe that this is happening again. It's true what they say that, don't quit before the miracle happens. And I didn't give up. I just didn't give up. I kept going,
Maybe explain for the listeners what the job entailed.
Yeah. So basically it was a, how can I put it? It would be like if me or Ricky were playing, and like, let's say Bob Probert was retired, and Bob Probert had 10 years of sobriety and a little bit of credentials behind him, and he was hired by the team as like a third party guy that you could talk to. And it was strictly confidential. It was between you and Bob, and that was it. That's what I was for the players and the coaches and the staff, is that I was just a healthy, confidential outlet for them to go to. I wasn't a miracle worker, and I wasn't, I didn't have a wizard stick or anything like that. But what I did have is I had experience in almost anything that they came to me with. Mm-hmm. And that maybe not only once, I've done that a few times. And then I also had some contacts in Los Angeles that I could get a hold of for aftercare if the players needed to continue their whatever program that I wanted to set up for them. So yeah, that was great. That was 3 best years of my life. It was it was a fun job.
Do you think that all the leagues? Do you think that's something all the teams in all the professional top leagues should have?
Well, again, so if you were to go, let's say, and have all 32 GMs in a room, and you went up to the board, and you had a Sharpie, and you gave each GM a Sharpie, and you laid out the program of what it is and how it works, and you said, okay, I want you to walk up there and just write down one negative aspect of this. I don't know what they're going to write. Like, I don't. Right. Yeah. Like, what are you gonna say that's bad about? You guys hire nutritionists, psychologists. You spend all this money on other things. What's the downside here? And I don't know if they'd be able to write anything down. I don't.
Now, Rob Blake was never really a fan of the program from the beginning. Did you ever, over the years, have a chat with him as to why? And here's a guy who was in the limelight.
But he played with him.
He played but I mean, here's a guy who lived it. Maybe he wasn't a bad actor or anything, but he knows of the temptations, and they're living in a place like LA, and especially what had gone on there.
Well, yeah, with Rob, and Rob's a really good man too. Like, we got to spend some time together when he was the assistant general manager under Dean. But as I write about, he didn't really understand what I was bringing to the table, and he believed that role of mine could be handled by some of the on ice player development coaches. And I just tried to explain to Rob that, like, it's way different than that, Blakey. And listen, at that point, that was Blakey's team, and I respected that. And I wish him and that team nothing but success. I've met some great people in LA, and things come to an end, and I'm totally okay with it. But I just sort of knew once Dean got let go and Darryl got let go that probably that role wasn't going to be around anymore.
Well, which is really a shame. I mean, you got a lot of young players that, are making a lot of money, and they don't know where to go for any kind of help, and they don't want to go to the coaches. They don't want to go to the general manager. But if you're there or somebody is there to help them, but they don't have that, I don't get it.
And like, especially if there's somebody on the team that is known to have a problem, right? So let's say, for instance, for the Montreal Canadiens to have hired a guy in that role 2-3 years ago, maybe Carey Price wouldn't be dealing with what he's dealing with now. Yeah. You don't know, right? So, and again, I'm not saying that we're the end all be all, but all I'm saying is that what's the downside to having that support system there? There is none. There isn't. Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't see any downside to it whatsoever. I mean, and to consider the fact that these teams all have so much money that they can have that, and they don't, But as you said, like, our team that keeps these guys on the ice can handle that. No, they can't, because they've never been through it. Like you said, I mean, it's something that you had to have gone through and learned from to be able to help someone.
Well, listen, yeah, that's some school of hard knocks, man. You're in the trenches for a while in that to get there,
Hey, listen,
not good trenches either.
Yeah. No, but I come from a world on Bay Street where 40 years there, and all the same type of trappings with guys getting money too fast, getting the limelight, the high rolling, the limos, the 5-star dinners, and all that stuff. So all those same things come at guys with drugs and the alcohol and the abuse. It's no different. And the thing is, what people don't understand is just because a guy plays hockey for a living doesn't mean he doesn't have the same problems at home with a kid doing bad in school, or the neighbor, his fence is too high, or the stuff's growing over in his yard, or he doesn't have mental issues or drinking problems or drug problems the same way every one of us has. And that's the striking thing with me, that I can't believe the NHL doesn't recognize this. And for what you were doing with these players, it sounds like you were there daily for these guys, and they had somebody that could just go and shoot the shit with you for a couple of hours or an hour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes daily. And they saw you there, and you played it, you lived it. And there was somebody you could maybe confide in. So let me ask you this, Brantt. How shocked would people be to know how many people really do have issues in the National Hockey League?
Well, I think people that are in management, or the coaching side, or the players, like the fans may not understand, but I think people that are in the hockey circle, they have an idea, and like you said, Mike, it's no, whether you have hockey skates on or you're carrying a briefcase to work, addiction or whatever other issues you're dealing with, they don't discriminate on what you do for a living.
No.
So, but unfortunately, the other thing too is the accessibility, and any kid that gets hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars at 18 or 19 can be a bit of a scary recipe down the road. So,
well, I love what you said when Dean asked you, how do I know if you're doing your job?
Oh, yeah.
You said, if you don't hear from me, then I'm doing my job.
And it is true though, right? Like, how are we going to, it was hard. It was a hard role because you're getting paid a salary, and you don't want to talk to the guy. It's like it's
you can't talk to the boss.
Yeah, it was. But he said, listen, I'm paying you to do a job, and I'm just going to leave you alone and let you do it, and that's it. And so he was great. He was awesome.
That was a pretty funny line, I got to admit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
How the fuck do I know this is going to be working or not? Are you stringing me
you
along?
don't hear from me.
Yeah.
That was pretty good. Well, now, Brantt, okay, well, just a couple. I want to thank you so much for taking time to do this because, I know you get asked a lot. But one of the best exchanges you had between another enforcer, you must have had some great lines. I mean, it's always we got to go and all this kind of stuff. But any funny exchanges between some of the guys over the years?
As far as funny exchanges, probably not funny. Like it wasn't necessarily funny.
Okay.
Maybe after the game at the bar when you're hanging out and shooting the shit, but during on the ice, it was pretty serious. Yeah.
Well, I guess what I was looking for is maybe so you can't maybe the funniest reason why a guy couldn't fight one night because if you're injured or something, but maybe something that it just wasn't normal.
Yeah, I can't really think of too much on that one though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because usually you're too busy dropping the gloves; they're ready to go right away most of the time, anyway.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I don't think. I mean, I don't remember any tough guys when I was playing that had any excuses. I mean, even if they had broken hands, they were probably still ready to go out there and do their job, and they would go out and do it. And
if you were in the lineup, and you told the trainer that you were good to go that night, for the most part, you had to live up to what was coming.
So just in conclusion here, guys, this one's for both you guys possibly. Being an expert in the field, both you with the world of addiction and having demons, how does the NHL attempt to prevent another Brantt Myhres or Rick Vaive from coming along or that developing? There is no secret sauce or formula to it, is there?
No.
no.
But there's, again, all I know is this, is that if I had if Bob Probert was in my role and he was in Tampa Bay or San Jose or Philly, I would have 100% used him. Would it have worked? I'm not sure. I can't say that it would have worked, but what I know is that I would have given it a shot, and I would have used Bob Probert away from the rink. As Rick said, we didn't have anybody, or me and Rick didn't have anybody at that time that was sort of in that confidential role. Everybody that was around me had a decision on whether I was going to get a paycheck or not. And as if I'm going to talk to those people about my problems.
That's right.
So yeah, I would
absolutely.
Right. So you know what? All I know is if there was a probie that was in the role I was in, I would have called Bob and I would have used Bob.
Yeah.
Squid, your thoughts?
I mean, you were a little bit after me, obviously, but I mean, when you go back to the 70s and 80s, there was nobody to help you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely nobody. If you went to one of the coaches or the general manager and said you had a problem with alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
you were gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
you were gone.
Yeah. And that's why with that program in Los Angeles, I wanted to do one-on-one meetings with the players at training camp and let them know exactly how the program laid out and what how serious that confidentiality was. And that's the key is trust between people. So yeah.
Well, it was my final thought to be, you would think that you've mentioned Probert already, but Bilag, Bugard, all these other guys with the tragic endings that came as a result of what happened all around them, you'd think they'd be strong enough signals to address this or at least try to prevent repeats of all this happening again. So it's all there.
It's an insurance policy too.
Well, that's
right. Like, as I say in the book, the SWAT team. You have a SWAT team on standby. You may not use them for 6 months, but when you have them, you're happy that they're there.
You're right. Absolutely happy they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I don't think there's enough people in positions in the National Hockey League that think that way. You know, they think everything's going to be okay. Well, we don't need that guy to help our players. You know, we can do that. We can, you know, whatever. But if one of those players comes to them with a problem, it's like, okay, you're out of here. You're gone. But there could have been someone there to help that player before that happened. And, they I don't know. They're blind to it, I guess.
Yeah, it's again, it's a bit of a head scratcher to me, but I don't run that league. But I just think, again, lastly on that whole thing is that I don't understand what the downside is. I never really have.
Well, I would suggest possibly too that if they ever do admit there is a problem, they would be fearful they open themselves up for lawsuits. So money does probably have a say in this as well.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, Brantt,
if you look at some of the things that are going on in some of the top leagues, you know, with the quarterback, what's his name, Deshaun Watson or whatever, like, you know, stuff like that. I mean, those are things that probably could have been avoided, you know, if somebody was there for him to talk to. But unfortunately, there isn't, and these guys don't really care. Like, you know, like we said, like if you come in and tell the coach that you have a problem, you're gone. Get out of here. Like we don't want anything to do with you anymore. And I don't think that's the way to treat professional athletes.
No,
I think your way of doing it, and like you said, there's no downside to having someone that went through that can help players get through it.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, Brantt, listen, it's been we've had you here for an hour and 45 minutes. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Your book, for all that listeners out there, Painkillers, the book. I highly recommend it. I got to admit, when I went to the bookstore and looked, I saw the cover. And I thought, I read rock books too. And I thought, oh, geez, this is misplaced. This should be in the rock section with the cover. And all of a sudden I took a closer look. I go, wait a minute, I got to read this. Sorry. Yeah, so you got my attention, that's for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to add a little bit of, I don't know. The cover was a little bit dark, but then I wanted to have that hummingbird flying and landing on the stick for hope. And, so I'm glad the way it turned out.
That was cool. It was great. Great book.
Well, I think I read it in a day and a half. So,
awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't put it down. I mean, hey, when you live that life and you go through it, you want to read that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, listen, Brantt, thanks again, man. Yeah. And all the best to you moving forward.
Thanks, guys. You guys have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, Brantt.